Well, it's springtime and gardens are starting to bloom. And for some of us, the concept of weeds are the bane of our existence at this time of year. But we really need to rethink exactly what is a weed, because in many cases, these non-invited but prolific plants can actually be quite nutritious and healing. So, in the spirit of the meadows starting to green up and the gardens growing all sorts of things you did not plant, for this week's Herb of the Week, we will explore a plant that has been in use for hundreds of years and is also a favorite of birds. And that Herb of the Week is shepherd's purse. Now you can see why they want to call it shepherd's purse because the Latin binomial is called Capsella bursa pastoris. And it's kind of a fun Latin word because pastoris is kind of like shepherd, and capsella is basically a capsule. But it's known as a shepherd's purse because, and I have a close up on the slide of its triangular flat fruits, which are purse-like. And this small annual flower plant is in the mustard family, and that's Brassiaceae. And that gives you a little clue as to how healing this plant is. Shepherd's purse is a good companion plant in your garden because it actually can inhibit nematode growth on the plants you've planted. So you may not want to remove it. Capsella bursa pastoris, they grow from a rosette of lobed leaves at the base, and the stem can grow anywhere from 4 to 20 inches tall and can grow up to 28 inches tall. And this plant bears a few little leaves, and the flowers, which appear in any month of the year, particularly in the British Isles, are white and small. Now, the plant has a plethora of common names, most of which I've never heard of, but I'll just give you a few for fun. Flaxseed pouches give it this wonderful thing, at least in English, shepherd's bag, shepherd's scripts, shepherd's sprout, lady purse, witch's pouches, rattle pouches, caseweed, pickpocket, pick purse, blindweed, poor man's parmaset, mother's heart, and with the Irish, it's called clappin pouch. Now, there, it's just as I say, the reason it was given all these funky names is apparently the old-fashioned medieval times. This was what purses looked like. Okay, so that's why. Now, the medicinal actions are quite profound, and they're mostly anything above ground. So we're not using the root of this plant, we're using the stems, the leaves, the little shepherd purses, all of that, and the flowers. And it has astringent properties, which means it's really good if as a first aid plant to stop bleeding. A fancy word for that is hemostyptic. And I don't know if any of you have those little things in your first aid kit called styptic pencils, but that's what they do for little cuts, scrapes, minor things. It can stop bleeding. Because of its astringent properties, it's really good at combating diarrhea. It's obviously a wound healer, but it also has anti-inflammatory properties and it has diuretic properties. Now, we don't know how this does this, but we can see that it actually decreases bleeding from the uterus. So if you have excessive menstrual discharge, this is probably something good to throw into your health regime. But it also stimulates muscles and increases uterine contractions. So please don't use this during pregnancy. Um, it's very effective if you combine it with some sort of anti-inflammatory agent if you have really heavy bleeding during your menstrual cycles. Um, it also helps after childbirth. This will reduce bleeding after a childbirth. It's also good for headache. Obviously, anything to do with premenstrual syndrome and if you have irregular bleeding. Now, again, any type of bleeding, you really do need to have it checked out. But if you know that you're okay, then this is a wonderful plant for you. Now, the constituents are quite prolific because it's part of the mustard family. And we know that the aerial parts of this plant contain those healing flavonoids, which are good for anything you can possibly imagine. There's a lot of polypeptides, proteins. There's also histamine. And according to chemical analysis, there are 24 chemical compounds which in mostly are made up of phenolic acid and flavonoid. And here's one that's particularly good specifically for astringent properties. And I'll let you pronounce that. Now, there are certain cautions with this plant. This lovely little volunteer everywhere, out walking in the neighborhood and out in the local forests, and it's pretty much everywhere. So I just enjoy seeing it and think, wow, I know what that plant is. But there are cautions you need to avoid while you're pregnant. You do not take this with any type of sedative medications, basically anything for anxiety, panic attacks, or helping to sleep. If you are on thyroid medications, do not take this. And again, if you're bleeding internally and things are coming out of various body orifices, either your anus or your vagina or your urethra, this is not a good sign. Um, so this should only be taken short term. And again, if you're bleeding more than a week, you really need to see your healthcare provider and make sure it's not something more serious. Now, shepherd's purse is honestly, it's a wonderful thing just to pick because it's pretty easy to identify. So many cultures actually just use this like you and I would use bean sprouts. But you can get it in tincture form, you can get it in capsule form, and also in tea form. It's basically the dried above ground parts of this. There's not really any specific dosage. This is one of those plants that kind of borders on nutrition as well as medicinal, but again, it's a short-term use. Now, a lot of Asian cuisines incorporate shepherd's purse, and I've included a link for a recipe for soup, but it's used in stir fries, in salads, in soups, and because it's from the mustard family, it's got that little kick in the taste. It's really delicious. So if you're wanting to get more chlorophyll in your diet, this is a good one. But just know because it has a lot of astringent properties, it could, if you overeat it, might actually cause you to be a little constipated. So be careful. Now, shepherd's purse is a prolific volunteer. Um, it's really kind of grows just everywhere and it'll probably pop up in your garden. You obviously are welcome to plant it. You can also, use it in a container garden if you just want to grow this, by itself. One of the herb gardens that I worked in while I was living in Minnesota, they had raised beds, where they literally, you could stand and work on the beds. And they had one that was just nothing but shepherd's purse, and the shepherd's purse was quite happy there. So again, there are links in the program notes if you would like to cultivate this plant. But I guarantee you, if you have a little patch of soil anywhere, this will probably pop up at some point. So, however you want to use this really lovely, ubiquitous plant with these little pouches which hold the seeds, I hope you come to appreciate what a wonderful gift that shepherd's purse is to us all. So, this is Stephanie Georgia saying thank you so much for sharing your valuable time with me. I hope you're enjoying, if you're in the Northern Hemisphere, getting your gardens going. If you would like to support the channel, there are links in the program notes on how to do that. If you would like to participate in the online botanical medicine course, there are many ways to do that. It's exclusively on Patreon. And again, if you click the link there, it'll take you to where you need to go. So, again, this is Stephanie Georgia saying thank you so much for spending your valuable time with me. And until next time, be well.